The blood from her bare feet left crimson marks across the fresh snow, and Clara Reynolds knew if she stopped running even for a second, he would kill her this time. Her lungs burned as she gasped for air in the frigid December wind that whipped through the Wyoming mountains surrounding Cody. The thin cotton nightgown she wore was no match for the bitter cold of 1885, but she had not had time to grab anything else when she heard Marcus break down the door of the boarding house where she had been hiding. 3 months of freedom from her ex-husband, 3 months of peace, and somehow he had found her again. The divorce papers had been finalized in September, signed by a judge in Cheyenne who had seen the scars on her arms and the terror in her eyes. But Marcus Reynolds had never been a man who respected the law. Behind her, she could hear him shouting her name, his voice carrying across the snow-covered valley. "Clara, you cannot run forever! You are still mine!" She pushed herself harder, her feet numb now, which was almost a blessing because she could no longer feel the rocks and ice cutting into them. The main street of Cody was somewhere ahead, but she had gotten turned around in her panic, fled into the wilderness instead of toward help. Stupid, so stupid. The sun was setting, painting the snow pink and gold, and the temperature was dropping fast. She would freeze to death out here if Marcus did not catch her first. A shot rang out, and Clara screamed as the bullet hit a tree trunk just to her left. She zigzagged, trying to make herself a harder target, but her legs were weakening. How long had she been running? 20 minutes? An hour? Time had become meaningless, measured only in heartbeats and breaths. "The next one goes in your leg," Marcus called out, and Clara knew he meant it. He was a crack shot, had won competitions. If he wanted to hit her leg, he would. She crested a small rise, and her foot caught on a hidden root beneath the snow. Clara went down hard, rolling, the air knocked from her lungs. For a moment she lay there, gasping, watching the sky darken above her. This was it. This was how it ended. 5 years of marriage to Marcus, 2 years of escalating violence, 8 months of planning her escape, 3 months of freedom, and now this. He would kill her in the snow like a hunted animal. "Get up," something inside her screamed. "Get up and fight!" Clara forced herself to her hands and knees, then to her feet, swaying, her vision blurred with tears and exhaustion. Through the haze, she saw a figure on horseback coming from the west, moving fast. Another of Marcus's friends, probably. He had plenty of them, men who thought as he did that women were property and the law had no right to interfere. But as the rider came closer, Clara realized she did not recognize him. He sat tall in the saddle, wearing a heavy wool coat and a wide-brimmed hat pulled low against the wind. The horse was a big bay gelding, well-muscled and sure-footed in the snow. The man's face was shadowed, but something in the way he rode, with purpose and authority, made her heart leap with desperate hope. "Help!" She tried to scream, but it came out as barely a whisper. She waved her arms. "Please!" The rider saw her. She knew the moment he did because the horse's pace increased from a canter to a gallop. Behind her she heard Marcus cursing, closer now, too close. She turned and saw him emerge from the tree line, his face red with exertion and rage, his gun still in his hand. "That is my wife!" Marcus shouted at the approaching rider. "Ex-wife!" Clara sobbed. "The marriage is over. He will kill me." The rider pulled his horse up between them in a spray of snow. Up close, Clara could see he was younger than she had first thought, maybe 25 or 26, with dark hair that needed a trim and eyes the color of a winter sky. His jaw was set, his expression hard as he took in the scene. Clara in her nightgown, bleeding and half frozen, and Marcus with his gun. "Get behind me," the cowboy said to Clara, his voice low and steady. She did not need to be told twice. Clara stumbled to the far side of his horse, using the animal's bulk as a shield. The gelding did not shy away from her, stood steady as a rock, as if used to trouble. "This is none of your concern, stranger," Marcus said. But Clara could hear the calculation in his voice. He was trying to figure out if he could take this man. "That woman is my property." She is not property at all, the cowboy said calmly, and she looks pretty terrified of you. I am thinking maybe you should head back to wherever you came from. I have a legal right. You have no right to hunt a woman through the snow like an animal. The cowboy's hand rested on his own gun, still holstered at his hip. I am only going to say this once. Turn around and leave. Marcus's face twisted with fury. Do you know who I am? My father owns half of Cheyenne. I can make your life hell, cowboy. I do not know who you are, and I do not care. The cowboy's voice did not rise, but something in it made Clara shiver. Last chance. For a long moment, nobody moved. Clara pressed herself against the horse, shaking so hard her teeth chattered. She could feel the animal's warmth through her thin nightgown, could smell the familiar scent of horse and leather and hay. The cowboy sat absolutely still in the saddle, waiting. Marcus raised his gun. The cowboy was faster. His weapon cleared the holster in a smooth, practiced motion, and the shot rang out before Marcus could fire. Marcus cried out and dropped his pistol, clutching his hand. Blood welled between his fingers. I could have killed you, the cowboy said quietly. Remember that. Next time I will not be so generous. Now get out of here. Marcus backed away, his face pale beneath the rage. You will pay for this, both of you. I will come back with the sheriff, with my father's men. The sheriff is a friend of mine, whereas the cowboy interrupted, and he tends to frown on men who chase women through the wilderness in their nightclothes. But you go ahead and fetch him if you want. Save me the trouble. Marcus hesitated, then turned and fled back toward town. The cowboy watched until he disappeared into the trees, then holstered his gun and dismounted in one fluid movement. He shrugged out of his heavy coat and draped it around Clara's shoulders before she could even process what was happening. The warmth was immediate and overwhelming. She gasped, pulling it tight around herself. Easy, he said gently. You are safe now. I am Thomas Jackson. People call me Tom. Clara, she whispered through numb lips. Clara Reynolds. Well, Miss Clara, we need to get you warm and looked at by a doctor. Those feet are a mess. He glanced up at the darkening sky. And we do not have much time before full dark, and a hard freeze sets in. Can you ride? Clara nodded, though she was not sure it was true. Tom lifted her into the saddle with surprising gentleness for such a large man, then swung up behind her. His arms came around her to grasp the reins, sheltering her from the worst of the wind. Clara sagged back against his chest, so exhausted and cold she was beyond caring about propriety. There we go, Tom murmured. I have got you. Just stay awake for me, all right? Talk to me. Tell me about this ex-husband of yours. As the horse started moving, picking its way carefully through the snow, Clara found herself talking. Maybe it was the shock, or the relief, or simply that this stranger had saved her life and she owed him the truth. She told him about meeting Marcus when she was 19, about how charming he had been at first, how he had swept her off her feet with his money and manners, about the first time he hit her 6 months after the wedding, and how he had cried and apologized and sworn it would never happen again, about how it had happened again and again until she lived in constant fear, walking on eggshells, trying to be perfect enough that he would not raise his hand. My mother died last year, she said softly. She was the only family I had left. After she passed, I realized there was nothing keeping me there anymore, nothing making me stay. So I went to a lawyer in secret, found one who would help me. The divorce took months and Marcus fought it, but the judge saw the bruises. He let me go. You are brave, Tom said, and Clara could hear in his voice that he meant it. I do not feel brave. I feel like a rabbit running from a wolf. Bravery is not the absence of fear. It is doing what you need to do despite the fear. You left him. You fought for your freedom. That takes courage most people do not have. His arms tightened around her slightly, and he will not hurt you again. I promise you that. They emerged from the wilderness onto a road Clara recognized. Main Street was just ahead. the buildings of Cody lit with lantern light against the gathering dusk. Tom guided the horse to a small house on the edge of town, barely more than a cabin, really, with a hitching post out front and smoke coming from the chimney. "Dr. Harris," Tom called out as he dismounted and lifted Clara down. "Need you out here." The door opened and a white-haired man with spectacles peered out. "Tom, what in the world?" His eyes fell on Clara and went wide. "Good Lord, get her inside, quickly now." The next hours passed in a blur. Dr. Harris was kind and efficient, cleaning and bandaging Clara's feet, while his wife, a plump woman named Martha, brought warm blankets and hot tea laced with honey. They helped Clara out of her nightgown and into a borrowed dress, thick wool stockings, and a shawl. Someone sent for the sheriff, a broad-shouldered man named William Curtis, who listened with a grim expression as Clara told her story again. "Marcus Reynolds," Curtis said, shaking his head. "I knew his father back in Cheyenne. Rich man, thinks money can solve any problem or hide any crime. The son is worse, spoiled, and mean." "He said he would come back with men," Clara said anxiously. "He said, he can say whatever he wants. You have got a legal divorce and he assaulted you. If he sets foot near you again, I will lock him up." Curtis glanced at Tom, who stood near the door, arms crossed. "You shot him?" His gun hand, warning shot? Tom's expression did not change. He was about to shoot her. Curtis nodded slowly. "I will need a statement from you too, but it sounds like self-defense and defense of another to me. I will go have a talk with Mr. Reynolds, make sure he understands the situation." He looked back at Clara with something like pity in his eyes. "You have a place to stay, miss?" Clara's heart sank. "I was staying at the boarding house, but I cannot go back there. That is where Marcus found me. I do not know how, but—" "He probably bribed someone," Tom said quietly. "Paid them to tell him if they saw you?" "The boarding house is not safe," Dr. Harris agreed. "Martha and I would offer you a room, but we have only the one spare and my wife's sister is visiting for the winter." An awkward silence fell. Clara stared down at her bandaged feet, fighting back tears. She had no money left, had spent the last of her savings on the divorce lawyer and the months of hiding. She had been planning to look for work in Cody, but now nowhere seemed safe. "She can stay with me," Tom said. Everyone turned to look at him. He straightened, meeting their gazes steadily. "I have a ranch about 5 miles out of town, up near the canyon. Small place, just me and my foreman, Hank. We have a spare room. Used to be my sister's before she got married and moved to Billings. It has a lock on the door and a window. Miss Clara would be safe there, safer than in town where Reynolds could get to her easily." "Tom, that is generous of you," Curtis said carefully, "but you know how people will talk. A single man and an unmarried woman under the same roof. People can talk all they want. I am more concerned about keeping her alive than about gossip." Tom looked at Clara, his winter blue eyes serious. "It is your choice, Miss Clara, but you would be safe at my ranch, and you could stay as long as you needed. No expectations, no strings, just a safe place." Clara studied him in the lamplight. He had a good face, she thought, strong and honest. Not handsome in the classical sense, but appealing in a rough-hewn way, with a straight nose and a firm mouth and those striking eyes. He stood like a man comfortable in his own skin, confident, without being arrogant. And he had saved her life, at considerable risk to himself. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why would you do this for a stranger?" Tom was quiet for a moment. "My mother," he finally said. "My father used to hit her when I was a boy. I was too young to stop him, too small. She told me it was fine, that it was just how things were, but I knew it was not fine. I knew it was wrong. When I was 12, he broke her arm, and she finally left him, took me and my sister with her. We had nowhere to go. A rancher named Joseph Greer took us in, gave my mother work as his housekeeper, let us stay in his bunkhouse. He saved our lives." Tom's jaw tightened. "My father came after us just like your ex-husband came after you. Joseph stood up to him, told him to leave and never come back, And he did. We were safe there. My mother lived another 15 years, died peaceful in her sleep, not in fear. I owe Joseph Greer everything. I cannot repay him, but I can do for you what he did for us. Pay it forward, so to speak. Clara felt tears prick her eyes. I would be grateful, she whispered, truly grateful. And I would work. I would earn my keep. I can cook and clean and... We will figure all that out later, Tom said gently. First, you need to rest and heal. Doctor, can she travel 5 miles in a wagon? If she is well wrapped and warm, yes, but those feet need to stay clean and dry. No walking for at least a week, maybe 2. I will carry her when we get to the ranch. Tom turned to Curtis. Sheriff, I want you to spread the word that Clara is under my protection. Anyone who helps Marcus Reynolds find her or hurt her will answer to me. Curtis nodded grimly. I will make that very clear. Tom, you are a good man. I am just doing what is right. An hour later, Clara found herself bundled in blankets in the back of Tom's wagon, lying on a bed of hay with Martha Harris's hot bricks wrapped in cloth at her feet to keep them warm. Tom drove the wagon himself, the bay gelding tied to the back. The night was clear and bitterly cold, the stars sharp overhead like chips of ice. Clara stared up at them and tried to process everything that had happened. This morning she had woken in her rented room at the boarding house, nervous but hopeful about her new life. Tonight she was fleeing again, but this time she was not alone. This time someone was helping her. How are you doing back there? Tom called from the driver's seat. Cold, but all right. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Tom, please, Mr. Jackson was my father, and I have no desire to be compared to him. Clara understood that. Then you must call me Clara. All right, Clara. They fell silent, and Clara must have dozed despite the cold, because the next thing she knew, Tom was gently shaking her shoulder. We are here. She sat up, blinking. The ranch was modest but well kept, a sturdy 2-story house with a wide porch, a barn, corrals, and a few outbuildings. Lamplight glowed in the windows. As Tom helped Clara down from the wagon, careful of her injured feet, a man emerged from the barn. He was older, maybe in his 50s, with gray in his beard and a weathered face. Tom, who is this? Hank, this is Clara. She's going to be staying with us for a while. It is a long story, but the short version is her ex-husband tried to kill her, and I intervened. She needs a safe place. Hank studied Clara with keen eyes, then nodded slowly. Welcome, miss. Any enemy of a man who would hurt a woman is a friend of ours. Thank you, Clara said softly. Tom carried her into the house, despite her protests. The interior was plain, but comfortable, with worn furniture and braided rugs and the kind of lived-in warmth that spoke of a real home. He took her upstairs to a small bedroom with a narrow bed, a dresser, a washstand, and a rocking chair by the window. It was clean and smelled faintly of lavender. My sister left some clothes in the dresser, Tom said as he set Clara carefully on the bed. You are about the same size, I think. Help yourself to whatever you need. The lock is here. He showed her the bolt on the inside of the door. Use it if it makes you feel safer. The outhouse is out back, but we have chamber pots under the bed. I will check on you in the morning, bring you breakfast. If you need anything in the night, my room is just down the hall. First door on the left. Do not hesitate to wake me. Clara looked around the room, overwhelmed. I do not know how to thank you. You do not need to thank me, just rest and heal. Tom moved toward the door, then paused. You are safe here, Clara. I give you my word. Marcus Reynolds will have to go through me to get to you, and I do not intend to let that happen. After he left, closing the door softly behind him, Clara sat on the bed and finally let herself cry. She cried for the years she had lost to Marcus, for the woman she had been before he broke her, for the terror of this day. But beneath the grief and fear, there was something else, something fragile and new, hope. Tom had looked at her not with pity or with lust, but with simple human kindness. He had asked nothing of her, expected nothing. He had simply helped because it was the right thing to do. Clara changed into one of the nightgowns from the dresser, soft flannel worn smooth with washing, and climbed under the heavy quilts. Despite everything, exhaustion pulled her under almost immediately, and for the first time in years, she slept without fear. She woke to sunlight streaming through the window and the smell of coffee and bacon. For a moment, she was disoriented, unsure where she was, but then memory came flooding back. The ranch, Tom, safety. There was a soft knock at the door. "Clara, are you awake? I brought breakfast." "Yes, come in." Tom entered carrying a tray loaded with food, bacon, eggs, biscuits with butter and jam, and hot coffee. He set it on the dresser and helped Clara sit up against the pillows. "How are you feeling?" "Sore. Tired. But better than yesterday." She looked at the tray. "This is too much." "You need to build your strength back up. Eat what you can." Tom sat in the rocking chair, looking slightly awkward in the small room. "I wanted to talk to you about the situation. I sent Hank into town this morning to get news. Marcus Reynolds left on the early stage, heading back to Cheyenne. But before he left, he made a lot of threats and threw a lot of money around. Curtis thinks he will come back, probably with hired men." Clara's appetite vanished. "I should leave. I should not bring this trouble to your door." "You're not bringing anything. He is the one causing trouble, not you. And you are not leaving. You are in no condition to travel, and you have nowhere to go." Tom leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Here's what I'm thinking. You stay here and recover. In the meantime, I will reach out to some people I know, see if we can build a legal case to have Marcus charged with assault and attempted murder. With the sheriff's testimony in mind, plus the doctor's report on your injuries, we might be able to get him locked up. His father will never allow it. He has too much influence. Maybe, but we have to try. And in the meantime, you are safe here. This ranch is defensible, and both Hank and I know how to handle trouble. We will keep watch." Clara wanted to argue, but what choice did she have? Tom was right that she could not travel, and she truly had nowhere else to go. "I hate being helpless," she said quietly. "I hate that he still has power over my life." "Then take the power back. Stay here, heal, and fight. Do not let him chase you into the ground. You are stronger than he is, Clara. You just do not see it yet." Over the following days, Clara found herself settling into an unexpected routine. True to his word, Tom asked nothing of her. He brought her meals, changed her bandages with surprising gentleness, and kept her company in the evenings, sitting in the rocking chair and talking about the ranch, his life, the weather. He told her about growing up poor, about watching his mother struggle, about Joseph Greer, who had given them a second chance, about how Tom had worked for Joseph for 10 years, learning everything about ranching, until the old man died and left him a small sum of money in his will. Tom had used it to buy this place, 40 acres and a herd of 20 cattle, and had been building it up ever since. "It is not much," he admitted one evening as the sun set outside the window, painting the snow in shades of orange and pink. "But it is mine. Nobody can take it from me. That matters, owning something." "It matters," Clara agreed. She was sitting up in bed, her feet healing slowly but surely. The swelling had gone down and the cuts were closing cleanly, though Dr. Harris had warned they would scar. "I never owned anything. Everything I had belonged to Marcus legally, even my clothes, my mother's jewelry. When I left, I took only what I could carry." "What did you do before you married him?" "I was a teacher at a small school in Cheyenne. I loved it, the children, the books, helping them learn to read." Clara smiled at the memory. "Marcus made me quit after we married. He said it was not appropriate for his wife to work. I should have seen then what he was, but I thought he just wanted to take care of me." "Maybe you could teach again once all this is settled. There are always children who need educating." The idea sent a thrill through Clara. "Do you think I could?" "Why not? You are educated, experienced. I bet the school in Cody would hire you in a heartbeat." It was a dream, fragile and bright, and Clara held it close to her heart. By the end of the first week, she was able to walk a little, carefully, and with Tom's support. He helped her down the stairs and into the main room where Hank was mending a harness by the fire. The older man looked up and smiled. "Good to see you up and about, Miss Clara." "Thank you. And thank you for letting me stay. I know this must be strange having a woman appear out of nowhere." Hank shrugged. "I have seen stranger things. Besides, Tom did the right thing helping you. I would have done the same." He paused, then added gruffly, "Had a daughter once. Her husband was not kind to her either. She died before I could get to her, before I even knew there was a problem. So you staying here, you getting a chance my girl did not get, that sits right with me." Clara felt tears sting her eyes. "I'm so sorry." "Not your fault, but maybe by helping you I can make some kind of peace with not being able to help her. Does that make sense?" "Yes," Clara whispered. "Perfect sense." That night Tom made dinner, a hearty stew with fresh bread. They ate together at the big table, the three of them, and it felt almost like a family. Clara could not remember the last time she had felt this way, relaxed and safe and welcome. With Marcus, meals had been tense affairs, Clara constantly watching his moods, trying to anticipate what might set him off. Here, there was easy conversation and laughter, Hank telling stories about ornery cattle, and Tom adding his own observations with dry humor. As Clara helped clear the dishes, moving carefully on her healing feet, Tom caught her hand. "You do not have to do that. You are still recovering." "I want to help. I need to feel useful." He looked at her for a long moment, and Clara was suddenly very aware of his hand wrapped around hers, warm and calloused. His eyes were softer than she had yet seen them, almost tender. "You do not have to earn your place here, Clara. You already have it." Her heart did a strange flutter in her chest. She pulled her hand away gently, confused by the feeling. "Still, I want to help." The days turned into weeks, and January arrived with a fresh blanket of snow. Clara grew stronger, her feet healing completely until she could walk without pain. She took over the cooking and some of the household chores, despite Tom's protests, because she needed to contribute, needed to feel like less of a burden. She found she enjoyed it, enjoyed having a home to care for, people to cook for who appreciated her efforts. Tom and Hank were kind but respectful, never inappropriate. They treated her like a person, not property, and the contrast with Marcus was so stark it made Clara's heart ache. She found herself watching Tom when he did not notice, admiring the way he moved with easy confidence, the way he treated his animals with gentleness, the way he listened when she spoke as if her words actually mattered. One afternoon in mid-January, Clara was kneading bread dough when Tom came in from checking the cattle, his face grim. "What is wrong?" she asked immediately. "Ryder came up from town, brought news. Marcus is back and he brought 6 men with him. Curtis is trying to keep them in line, but Marcus is making noise about coming out here to get you." Fear flooded through Clara, cold and sharp. "I should go. I should leave before he brings violence to your door." "You are not going anywhere." Tom's voice was firm. "This is what I have been expecting, what we have been preparing for. Hank and I can handle 6 men, especially with Curtis keeping an eye on things in town, but I need you to promise me something." "What?" "If they come here, if there is trouble, you go out the back window of your room and you run for the canyon. There is a cave about a mile north, hidden behind a rock fall. You hide there until I come for you, promise me." Clara shook her head. "I will not leave you to fight my battles." "You will not be leaving me to fight. You will be staying alive so that the fighting means something." Tom took her shoulders gently, looking down into her eyes. "Please, Clara, I need to know you will be safe. I cannot focus on dealing with Marcus if I am worried about him getting to you." His hands on her shoulders sent warmth through her whole body. When had that started? This awareness of him? This feeling that when he was near, everything was right, and when he left, the room felt emptier? Clara swallowed hard. "I promise," she whispered. "Good." Tom did not let go immediately. They stood there in the kitchen, the smell of rising bread around them, and something shifted in the air between them. Tom's eyes dropped to her mouth. then back up, and Clara's breath caught. Then Hank's voice called from outside, and the moment broke. Tom stepped back, clearing his throat. I should go help with the evening chores. After he left, Clara pressed her hands to her hot cheeks. She could not be developing feelings for Tom. It was too soon, too complicated. She had just escaped one man. She could not immediately fall into the arms of another. Except Tom was nothing like Marcus. Tom was kind and respectful and good. Tom made her feel safe in a way she had never felt before, not even before her marriage. With Tom, she felt seen and valued and protected without being controlled. Oh no, Clara thought. Oh no, I am falling in love with him. The realization terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. That night, none of them slept well. Tom and Hank took turns keeping watch, and Clara lay in her bed with her heart pounding, waiting for the sound of hoofbeats, for Marcus's voice, for violence to come crashing down on this peaceful place. But the night passed quietly, and the next day as well. Then a week, then 2. Marcus was still in town, the writer reported on his next visit, but he had not made a move. Curtis had warned him explicitly that if he rode out to the ranch, he would be arrested for trespassing and harassment. Marcus had money, but Curtis had the law, and even Marcus's father's influence did not reach this far north. He is waiting us out, Tom said grimly, hoping we will get complacent or that Clara will come into town. I will not, Clara said. She had no desire to leave the ranch, to risk encountering Marcus. Here, with Tom and Hank, she felt protected. February brought a thaw, the snow melting into mud. Clara celebrated her 24th birthday quietly, not mentioning it to Tom or Hank. She had no desire for a fuss, but somehow Tom found out, probably from some document she had filled out for Curtis, because he made her a special dinner, and Hank presented her with a carved wooden bird, small and perfect. Used to carve for my daughter, he said gruffly. Thought you might like it. Clara held the little bird smooth and beautiful and cried. They were good tears, healing tears. Thank you, she managed. Both of you. This is the best birthday I have had in years. After dinner, Tom walked with her out onto the porch. The night was clear and cold, but not frigid, and the stars were brilliant overhead. They stood in comfortable silence for a while, then Tom said quietly, I am glad you were born, Clara. She looked up at him, surprised. What? I'm glad you were born. The world is better with you in it. I am better with you in it. He turned to face her, his expression serious. I know this is not the right time, and I have no right to say this, but I need you to know. You have become important to me. These last weeks, getting to know you, seeing your strength and kindness and courage, I have been falling in love with you. I do not expect you to feel the same. I know you are still healing from what Marcus did, and that takes time. But I wanted you to know, so that when you are ready, if you are ever ready, you know how I feel. Clara's heart was pounding so hard she was sure he must be able to hear it. Tom, You do not have to say anything. I just wanted to be honest with you. No, let me speak. Clara took a deep breath, gathering her courage. I am falling in love with you too. It terrifies me because I swore I would never let another man have power over me. But you do not want power, do you? You just want me to be safe and happy. That is all I want, Tom said softly. Then I think, maybe, I could learn to trust again. With you? Tom's face lit up like the sun. Slowly giving her every chance to pull away, he cupped her face in his hands and leaned down. His lips brushed hers, gentle as a whisper, asking not taking. Clara's eyes fluttered closed, and she kissed him back, her hands coming up to rest on his chest. She could feel his heart beating beneath her palm, strong and steady. The kiss was sweet and tender, nothing like the harsh, demanding kisses Marcus had forced on her. This was a question and an answer, a promise, a beginning. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were smiling. I would like to court you properly, Tom said, if you will let me. I would like that, Clara whispered. They went inside hand in hand, and that night Clara slept with a lightness in her heart she had not felt in years. But happiness in the Wild West was always precarious, always at the mercy of violence and chance. 3 days later, just after dawn, the sound of gunfire shattered the morning peace. Clara jerked awake, her heart in her throat. Outside, she could hear men shouting, horses neighing. Tom's voice rose above the chaos. Get back, or I will shoot to kill. Marcus had come. Clara threw on a dress and ran to the window. In the muddy yard below, Tom and Hank stood on the porch with rifles facing 6 mounted men. Marcus sat in the center on a black stallion, looking every inch the wealthy man's son in his fine coat and hat. But his face was twisted with rage, and his bandaged gun hand rested on his saddle horn. Give her to me, Marcus shouted. She is mine, and you have no right to keep her. She is not a possession, Tom called back, and she is under my protection. You need to leave now. I will burn this place to the ground before I let some dirt-poor cowboy keep what belongs to me. Clara's hands clenched on the windowsill. She had to stop this, had to prevent Tom from getting hurt because of her. The promise she had made to run to the cave seemed suddenly selfish. How could she hide while good men fought her battles? She started toward the door, but it opened before she reached it. Hank stood there, his face serious. Tom sent me to get you. You need to go, Miss Clara, like he told you. I cannot let him fight for me. He is not fighting for you. He is fighting because it is right. And you staying here just makes his job harder. Please, miss, go out the back window like he said. Below, another shot rang out, followed by cursing. Clara's resolve crumbled. Hank was right. If she stayed, she was a target, a distraction. But if she hid, Tom could focus on what he needed to do. Take care of him, she whispered, with my life. Hank helped her open the window. The drop to the muddy ground was about 10 feet. Clara climbed onto the sill, gathered her skirts, and jumped. She landed hard but rolled as Tom had taught her during their evening talks and came up running. Behind her, the gunfire increased. Clara did not look back, just ran for the tree line and the canyon beyond. Tears streamed down her face, but she kept moving. The cave was a mile north, hidden behind a rock fall. She had to get there, had to stay safe so that Tom's protection meant something. The run felt like it took forever. Clara's lungs burned and her legs ached, but she pushed herself harder, dodging trees and jumping over fallen logs. Finally, she saw the rock fall, a jumble of massive boulders that looked impassable. But there was a gap, narrow and hidden, that led to a small cave beyond. Tom had shown it to her weeks ago during one of their walks when her feet had healed enough for short excursions. Clara squeezed through the gap and into the cave. It was dark and cold, but dry. She huddled in the back corner, shaking, and waited. Time became meaningless. Clara counted her heartbeats, her breaths, anything to keep from going mad with worry. What was happening at the ranch? Was Tom all right? Hank? Had Marcus broken through? Was Tom lying in the mud, bleeding, dying because he had tried to protect her? She did not know how long she sat there. Hours, certainly. The light filtering through the gap changed angle, suggesting the sun was climbing higher. Still, nobody came. Finally, when she thought she might scream from the tension, she heard footsteps outside the cave. Clara pressed herself against the wall, heart pounding. What if it was Marcus? What if he had won? Clara? Tom's voice, rough but steady. Clara, are you in there? Relief crashed over her so intensely she thought she might faint. Tom, I am here. She scrambled toward the gap and squeezed through. Tom was standing in the snow, his face streaked with dirt, and his shirt torn, but alive, blessedly alive. Clara ran to him and threw her arms around his neck. He caught her, holding her tight. You are all right, she sobbed into his shoulder. You are all right. I am fine. We are both fine, Hank and me. Tom pulled back just enough to look at her face. "It is over, Clara. Marcus is gone." "What happened?" "He and his men tried to rush the house. We held them off, and Curtis showed up with a posse. Turns out the sheriff had been keeping watch, waiting for Marcus to make his move. When the shooting started, Curtis and his men came running. They arrested Marcus and all 6 of his hired guns. Marcus is in jail right now, charged with attempted murder and a host of other crimes. Curtis says with all the witnesses and evidence, not even his father's money will get him out of this." Clara could hardly believe it. "He is really in jail? It is really over? It is really over. You are free, Clara, truly free." She kissed him then, right there in the snow, with the sun shining down and the canyon walls echoing her joy. Tom kissed her back, his arms strong around her, and Clara knew she had finally found what she had been searching for, not just safety, but home. They walked back to the ranch hand in hand, talking quietly. Tom told her the details of the fight, how Hank had shot one of the hired guns in the leg, and how Curtis had come riding up with 5 men all well armed and ready to defend the law. Marcus had been screaming about his rights, about his father, but Curtis had calmly read him the charges and clapped him in irons. "He will go to prison," Tom said. "For a long time," Curtis thinks. "Attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, trespassing, threatening an officer of the law, the list goes on. And even if he gets out someday, he will not come after you. Curtis made it very clear that if Marcus so much as sends you a letter, he will find himself back behind bars." At the ranch, Hank was sitting on the porch, cleaning his rifle. He looked up as they approached and smiled. "Found her?" "Found her. How is the house?" "A few bullet holes, nothing we cannot patch. Could have been worse." Tom nodded. Could have been a lot worse. That night they celebrated with a good dinner and the bottle of whiskey Hank kept for special occasions. They toasted to freedom, to justice, to new beginnings. Clara sat between Tom and Hank at the table and felt for the first time since her mother died like she had a family again. Over the following weeks, life settled into a new pattern. Clara officially moved into the ranch not as a guest but as a member of the household. She and Tom courted properly, going for walks, talking for hours, stealing kisses in the barn and on the porch. It was everything Clara had never known courtship could be, respectful and sweet and exciting all at once. In March, news came that Marcus had been sentenced to 15 years in prison. His father had tried to bribe the judge, but the judge was an honest man who had no patience for men who abused women. Marcus would be an old man by the time he got out, and Clara would be long gone, impossible to find. With that final weight lifted, Clara felt like she could finally breathe. She went into Cody and applied for a position at the schoolhouse. The schoolmaster, a kind man named Frederick Morrison, hired her on the spot. Starting in the fall, Clara would teach reading and arithmetic to the youngest children. The thought filled her with joy. Tom was proud of her. She could see it in his eyes whenever she talked about her plans for the school year. He never once suggested she stay home instead, never tried to control her choices. He loved her for who she was, not for what he wanted her to be. In April, when the snow had fully melted and wildflowers carpeted the meadows around the ranch, Tom took Clara riding up into the canyon. They stopped at a high overlook where the whole valley spread out below them, green and beautiful and full of promise. "I have been thinking," Tom said, as they sat on a flat rock, the horses grazing nearby, "about the future, about what I want my life to look like." Clara's heart began to race. "And what do you want?" "I want you." Tom took her hand, his expression serious but warm. "I want you in my life, as my partner, my wife, if you will have me. I know it has not been long, and I know you have been through hell. If you need more time, I understand. But I love you, Clara, and I want to build a life with you. I want to grow old on this ranch with you by my side. I want to raise children with you if you want children. I want to support your teaching and celebrate your successes. I want all of it, everything with you." Clara felt tears slip down her cheeks, but they were happy tears. "Yes," she whispered, "yes, I will marry you. I love you, Tom. You gave me back my life, and I want to spend it with you." Tom pulled a simple gold band from his pocket, a ring that had belonged to his mother. It fit perfectly on Clara's finger, as if it had been made for her. They kissed as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of fire and gold, and Clara knew she had finally found her place in the world. They were married in May, in a small ceremony at the church in Cody. Sheriff Curtis gave Clara away, and Hank stood as Tom's best man. Dr. Harris and his wife attended, along with a handful of other townsfolk who had come to know and respect Clara. It was simple and perfect, and when the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Tom kissed Clara like she was the most precious thing in the world. The ranch became truly home after that. Clara and Tom settled into married life with an ease that surprised them both. They worked side by side during the day, Tom managing the cattle and Clara tending the house and garden. In the evenings, they sat on the porch and talked, or read together by the fire, or simply enjoyed each other's company in comfortable silence. In September, Clara began teaching at the school. She loved it even more than she had remembered, loved watching the children's faces light up when they mastered a new word or solved a problem. Tom would pick her up in the wagon each afternoon, and they would ride home together, Clara telling him about her day, and Tom sharing the news from the ranch. That winter, Clara discovered she was pregnant. Tom was overjoyed, gentle, and attentive, making sure she did not overexert herself. Hank started carving a cradle, working on it every evening by the fire, the wood taking shape under his skilled hands. Their son was born in June of 1886, a healthy baby with Tom's dark hair and Clara's green eyes. They named him Joseph, after the man who had saved Tom's family, and the name felt right, a way of honoring the kindness that had brought them all to this point. Clara had worried during her pregnancy that motherhood might trigger bad memories, might remind her of the life she had fled. But holding Joseph in her arms, with Tom beside her and Hank beaming from the doorway, she felt only joy. This was her family, her choice, her life. She took a year away from teaching to care for Joseph, but when he was weaned and walking, she returned to the schoolhouse, bringing him with her. The children loved having a baby in the classroom, and Joseph grew up surrounded by books and learning and laughter. 2 years later, Clara gave birth to a daughter they named Rose, after Tom's mother. She was a serious baby, watchful and calm, and she adored her older brother. Tom was a wonderful father, patient and loving, never raising his voice or his hand. Watching him with their children healed something in Clara she had not even known was broken. The ranch prospered. Tom's herd grew from 20 cattle to 50, then to 100. He hired 2 more ranch hands to help Hank, young men from town who were eager to learn the trade. Clara's garden expanded, and she started selling vegetables and preserves in Cody, adding to their income. They were not rich, but they were comfortable, and more importantly, they were happy. Years passed in this way, marked by the changing seasons and the milestones of their children. Joseph learned to ride almost before he could walk, tagging along with Tom on his rounds. Rose preferred the house, helping Clara cook and learning to read at a remarkably young age. When she turned 4, Clara began teaching her letters at the kitchen table, and Rose soaked up knowledge like a sponge. In the summer of 1891, word came that Marcus had died in prison, killed in a fight with another inmate. Clara felt nothing when she heard the news, not relief or satisfaction or even closure. That part of her life was so distant now, so irrelevant, that Marcus's death was simply a fact, no more significant than any other piece of news. Tom held her that night, sensing that even though she felt nothing, she might need the comfort, and Clara loved him for understanding. By 1895, Clara and Tom had been married 10 years, and their love had only deepened. They knew each other's rhythms and moods, could communicate with a glance, finished each other's sentences. Joseph was 9, tall and strong like his father, with a gift for working with animals. Rose was 7, quiet and thoughtful, already reading at a level far beyond her years. Clara had returned to teaching full-time, and Tom had been elected to the town council, respected by everyone in Cody for his fairness and integrity. One evening in late summer, after the children were in bed, Clara and Tom sat on the porch watching the sunset. This was their ritual, this quiet time together at the end of each day. Tom reached over and took Clara's hand, lacing his fingers through hers. "Do you remember?" he said quietly. "The day I found you running through the snow?" "Of course. I remember everything about that day. I thought you were the bravest person I had ever seen, running in bare feet, terrified but still fighting. I knew right then I would do anything to keep you safe." Clara squeezed his hand. "You did keep me safe. You gave me a life I never dreamed I could have. You gave me everything, Tom. You gave me everything too. A home, a family, a reason to be better than I thought I could be." He turned to look at her, his winter blue eyes soft in the fading light. "I love you more now than I did the day we married. I did not think that was possible, but it is true." "I love you too," Clara whispered. "Always." They sat in comfortable silence as the stars began to appear overhead, the same stars that had watched them through all the years, through danger and healing, through falling in love, and building a life together. The ranch spread out around them, peaceful and prosperous, filled with the sounds of cattle lowing and chickens settling for the night, and their children's soft breathing from upstairs. This was happiness, Clara thought. Not the absence of hardship, but the presence of love and purpose and connection. She had run through the snow barefoot and terrified, and she had been caught by a man who had asked nothing but offered everything. Together they had built something beautiful from the ashes of her old life. In the years that followed, that beauty only grew. Joseph grew into a fine young man, taking over more and more of the ranch work until Tom could joke that he was half retired. Rose attended a teaching college in Denver, graduating with honors and returning to Cody to teach alongside her mother. She met a young lawyer there, a kind man named Daniel Fletcher, and married him in the same church where Clara and Tom had wed. Joseph married as well to a rancher's daughter named Anna, and they built a house on the eastern edge of Tom and Clara's land. Anna was practical and strong, a perfect match for Joseph's quiet steadiness. They gave Clara and Tom their first grandchildren, twin boys who were absolute terrors and absolute joys in equal measure. Through it all, through the joys and the small sorrows, the triumphs and the everyday challenges, Tom and Clara remained each other's foundation. They celebrated their 20th anniversary, then their 30th. Tom's hair went gray, and Clara's developed silver streaks that she refused to cover. They moved a little slower, their joints aching in the cold, but their love was as strong as ever. On their 40th anniversary in the spring of 1925, their children and grandchildren threw them a party that filled the ranch house to bursting. There was music and dancing and enough food to feed half of Cody. Tom and Clara stood together, surrounded by the life they had built, and Clara thought back to that terrified young woman running through the snow. If she could go back and tell that woman what the future held, would she believe it? Would she believe that the cowboy who caught her would become her whole world? That from that moment of terror would grow 4 decades of love and partnership and joy? Probably not, Clara thought with a smile. But that was all right. Some things had to be lived to be believed. Tom leaned down and whispered in her ear, "What are you thinking about?" "About how lucky I am. About how one moment changed everything." "One moment," Tom agreed. He took her hand, the same hand that had worn his mother's ring for 40 years, and kissed it gently. "The best moment of my life." They danced together in the middle of their crowded house, moving slowly to the music, surrounded by their family and friends. Clara rested her head on Tom's chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart, and felt complete. As the evening wound down and the guests began to leave, Rose pulled Clara aside. "Mama, I have something for you." She handed Clara a leather-bound book. I have been writing down your story, yours and Papa's. I want the grandchildren to know how you met, what you survived, how much you love each other. I thought you might like to read it." Clara opened the book and saw her own story written in Rose's neat hand. The running through snow. The cowboy who said, "Get behind me." The falling in love. The building of a life. Tears blurred her vision. "It is beautiful," she whispered. "Thank you, sweetheart. You and Papa, you showed us what love is supposed to look like. Respectful and kind and strong enough to weather anything. I wanted to preserve that, so it is never forgotten." That night, after everyone had gone home and the house was quiet again, Clara and Tom sat on their porch one more time. The stars overhead were the same stars that had watched them for 40 years, constant and unchanging. Tom wrapped a blanket around Clara's shoulders, and she leaned into his warmth. "Do you think we will have another 40 years?" Clara asked, only half joking. Tom laughed. "I do not know if I will make it to 96, but I will try if you will." "It is a deal." They sat together in the darkness, holding hands, and Clara knew with absolute certainty that whatever time they had left, whether it was 1 year or 20, it would be enough. Because they had each other, and they had built something that would last beyond their own lives. Their children would carry on the ranch, teach their own children about love and respect and courage. Rose's book would preserve their story. The life they had created together would ripple forward into the future, touching people they would never meet. Clara closed her eyes and remembered that December day in 1885, the snow and the fear and the desperate hope. She remembered Tom's voice saying, "Get behind me," those 3 words that had changed everything. And she remembered the moment she had realized she was falling in love with him, the moment she had understood that not all men were like Marcus, that love could be gentle and kind and safe. "Thank you," she whispered into the darkness. "For what?" Tom asked. "For catching me, for protecting me, for loving me, for everything." Tom squeezed her hand. "Thank you for trusting me, for choosing me, for building this life with me. I was just a cowboy trying to do the right thing, but you made me into something more. You made me into the man I always wanted to be." They sat in silence after that, watching the stars wheel overhead and listening to the sounds of the ranch settling for the night. Inside the house, the clock struck midnight, marking the beginning of a new day. But Clara and Tom stayed where they were, unwilling to let go of this perfect moment, this culmination of 40 years of love. Eventually, the cold drove them inside. They climbed the stairs to their bedroom, moving slowly, their bodies worn by decades of hard work and life. Tom helped Clara undress, and she helped him. The ritual so familiar and comfortable, it was like a dance. They climbed into bed, the same bed they had shared for 40 years, and Tom pulled Clara close. "I love you," he murmured into her hair. "I love you too," Clara replied, "forever." As she drifted off to sleep in her husband's arms, safe and warm and loved beyond measure, Clara's last thought was of gratitude. Gratitude for the chance to start over, for the courage to run, for the cowboy who had caught her and changed everything. Her life had not been easy, but it had been good, so much better than she had ever dreamed possible. And that, Clara thought as sleep claimed her, was more than enough. That was everything. The years continued to pass gently for Tom and Clara. They grew old together with grace, their love a constant in a changing world. When Tom died peacefully in his sleep at the age of 93, Clara held his hand and told him she would see him again someday. She lived 3 more years, surrounded by children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, all of them carrying forward the legacy of love and respect that she and Tom had built. When Clara passed away at 95, she was buried next to Tom on a hill overlooking the ranch, under a sky full of stars. On her headstone, Rose had inscribed simple words: "She ran, he caught her. They loved forever." And in the ranch house below, Joseph's grandson found Rose's leather-bound book and began to read his great-grandparents' story. The words painted pictures in his mind. A woman running barefoot through snow, a cowboy who said, "Get behind me," a love that had conquered fear and grown stronger with every passing year. He closed the book carefully and looked out the window at the land that 4 generations of his family had worked and loved. The ranch was still there, still thriving, a testament to everything Tom and Clara had built together. Their story lived on, would continue to live on, teaching each new generation what true love looked like. And somewhere perhaps under those same eternal stars, Tom caught Clara's hand once more, and together they walked into whatever came next, side by side, as they had always been, as they would always be, forever and always, in this life and whatever lay beyond.